Tonight, it's on. Scott Morrison pulls the election trigger, sending Australians to the polls on May 21. Special coverage from Canberra.
Melbourne on show to the world with record crowds packing Albert Park to see Ferrari reign supreme.
Charles Leclerc wins the Australian Grand Prix for
Mildura in mourning with police probing the head-on crash that killed a young officer.
Boris Johnson's surprise visit to Kyiv as Melbourne rallies for Ukraine.
And an injury blow for Carlton's Brownlow favourite as the Bombers survive a scare against the Crows.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Mike Amor and Rebecca Madden.
Good evening. Scott Morrison has pulled the election trigger, sending millions of Australians to the polls for a May 21 election.
The 6-week campaign is already underway tonight, with the Prime Minister and Anthony Albanese wasting no time launching their blitz in key battlegrounds.
The pandemic Prime Minister makes his pitch for a second term.
It's a choice between a strong future and an uncertain one.
Determined his government won't become the next COVID casualty, acknowledging its failings.
Our government is not perfect. We've never claimed to be. But we are up front.
And up front that his own popularity's gone down, but trying to convince voters it isn't about him.
This election is about you, no one else.
Leaving Kirribilli shortly before 9 this morning, boarding his jet in Sydney for the quick flight to Canberra. And then the Prime Ministerial election procession. 7 News following his convoy through the streets of Canberra, down tree-lined Dunrussell Drive, and a rowdy reception outside Government House, asking Governor-General David Hurley to dissolve the 46th Parliament and setting off on the campaign of his political life before a weary electorate.
I get it that people are tired of politics as we go into this election.
Yet opting for more politics, a longer campaign, 6 weeks, polling day May 21. As the election circus begins, Anthony Albanese with partner Jodie Hayden mixing not with political animals but real ones at Sydney's Royal Easter Show.
We were born last Monday, so they don't get to vote yet.
Beginning his quest to become just the 4th Labor leader to win an election from opposition since World War II.
Who are you? And who are you?
Promising a different kind of leadership.
I am who I am. I'm a working class lad. I grew up not far from here, in Sydney, in public housing. I'm comfortable in a boardroom and I'm comfortable in a pub.
If Scott Morrison loses just one seat, he loses majority government with it. His first campaign stop here in the New South Wales South Coast seat of Gilmore, one of the key marginals he'll need to win if he's to cling to power. Emphasising what he says are the risks of change, trying to build a fear of the unknown.
But we're not out of the woods yet, and Australians know it. There's still a lot of uncertainty ahead.
Pushing his government's economic achievements, warning now's not the time for change.
It's a choice between a government you know and a Labor opposition that you don't.
Anthony Albanese says voters do know the Morrison government all too well.
He's running an election campaign whereby his Deputy Prime Minister has said he's a hypocrite and a liar.
But it's not all new ideas, recycling a major theme from Mark Latham's disastrous 2004 campaign.
Australians are ready, Labor's ready, and I'm ready.
I'm ready, we are ready, and Australia is ready.
And now it's ready, set,
Hey ho, let's go.
Off to work they go.
Political editor Mark Riley joins us from Nowra on the New South Wales South Coast. Mark, what are voters in for over the next 6 weeks?
Well, Beck, a lot of talk, a few promises and a fair bit of colour, I suspect, but really the election campaign will be hinging on the debate over the case for change versus the risks of change. Both sides concede that there's a great frustration in the electorate at the moment over the rising costs of living and COVID restrictions and a whole range of other issues. Anthony Albanese says the only way to address that is to change the government. Scott Morrison saying that doing that change comes with big risks, particularly with an largely untested Labor Party. But the tail of the tape here, as it always is in the numbers, and this campaign begins with the government between 8 and 10 points behind in all the major polls, and both sides conceding privately this election is Labor's to win or lose. Beck.
OK, Mark Riley, thank you. Dozens of MPs are under real threat of being voted out, with a hit list of marginal seats for the Coalition and Labor. Battle lines have been drawn as the campaign begins.
Australians are gearing up to head to the polls on May 21, and it's going to be a tight race. The Coalition will go on the defensive in Queensland, trying to hold on to 23 seats amid Scott Morrison's unpopularity there and constant fights with Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk. Labor's quietly confident of snatching 9 marginal seats, including Leichhardt, Herbert, Capricornia, Flynn, Longman, Petrie, Dixon, Bowman and Ford. Scott Morrison's home state of New South Wales is where he could win or lose this election. 10 Labor seats are on his radar, including Macquarie, Gilmore, Hunter, Parramatta and Richmond. But the Liberal seats of Reid and Lindsay are at risk of turning red. The Prime Minister also has to worry about the uprising of independents, with Wentworth and North Sydney in their sights. Chisholm in Victoria is a must-win for Labor. It's held by Gladys Liu for the Liberals on a razor-thin margin of just 0.5%. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg's seat of Kooyong is also under threat from an independent, so too is Goldstein. Tasmania will be the all-important swing state, and holding on to Bass and Braddon will be critical to the Coalition's chances of retaining power, with the Liberals also hoping to seize Lyons from Labor. Over in Western Australia, there are 11 Coalition seats. Former Attorney General Christian Porter's resignation amid sexual harassment allegations leaves Pearce an open target, and Steve Irons' retirement leaves Swan vulnerable. Labor fancies its chances in Hasluck and Tangi, hoping to capitalise on Premier Mark McGowan's huge popularity. So, a big few weeks of frenetic campaigning ahead, and it could all come down to a delicate power balance for whoever wins office, as Australia votes for the next Prime Minister.
And 7 News is your home for all the latest election coverage, on the road with both camps, everything you need to know as Australia decides.
Ferrari fans across Melbourne are in party mode tonight after Charles Leclerc's effortless win in the Formula One Grand Prix at Albert Park. Event organisers are just as happy as they toast a new 4-day crowd record.
A race before the race, in the quest to meet their F1 heroes.
Melbourne walk, got to get there. Got to meet the drivers, got to get the selfies.
Leaving the house 4 a.m. to get here at 7.
Whose autograph are you wanting to get?
Oh, as many as we can get. Tradition. I've done it for 20 years, so.
Daniel Ricciardo. Gotta meet him. Gotta meet him.
Aussie Dan got the warmest welcome as die-hard rev heads battled for a glimpse of the McLaren star.
What did you have to do to get the signature?
Basically, you just had to shout, I guess. Just hold it in front of him until he signed it.
Got that, and also the hat.
What? As well. You got 2 autographs?
Yeah. I was climbing on the tree earlier.
How did that go?
I got yelled at by Scooty.
My jaw's hurting from smiling so much.
He wasn't the only one on a bumper weekend for Melbourne.
That's what this is all about. It's bringing people into Melbourne from the regions, bringing people into Victoria from interstate, bringing people into Australia from overseas.
We are blessed to have this event. It's the greatest location to have it.
The state government is in a race of its own to lock in the Albert Park Grand Prix beyond its current contract, which expires in 2025.
To stay here, definitely. Yeah, the whole setup here, it's fantastic.
It's just really picturesque, you know what I mean?
This is special and I think they should keep it here. I'm happy to come to Melbourne. I love coming to Melbourne.
Melbourne on show to the world after a 3-year hiatus. There was early trouble for Ferrari. Then, just before the halfway mark, Sebastian Vettel's race was done. And just as Charles Leclerc began to build his lead over Max Verstappen, the Red Bull driver was forced to pull out with car problems, quickly escaping before it caught a light. Leclerc continued to pull away, posting the fastest lap of the race, the 24-year-old completing an all-the-way win. Red Bull's Sergio Perez came in second, Mercedes' George Russell third. Ricciardo finished 6th, his first points for the year.
Still some work to do for sure, but overall a much better weekend.
And Tegan Doling is trackside, dressed, of course, in Ferrari red, and Teagues, this weekend's crowd numbers are simply astonishing.
It's been a huge turnout over the last 4 days, Mike. 419,000 people have attended. That's a record, eclipsing the previous record back in Melbourne's first Grand Prix in 1996. There's still a lot of people that are coming out of Albert Park this evening and hanging down here because I can tell you there's going to be celebrations and commiserations well into the evening. Mike.
Tegan, thank you.
And Ferrari fans are making their way to Melbourne's Italian heartland. Emma O'Sullivan's celebrations on Lygon Street are in full swing.
Beck, that's right. The Grand Prix has served up lots of examples that Melbourne and big events and having a good time all go together once again. And Ferrari fans are adding to that tonight. I have to say they were pretty confident. They say once their championship leader snared that pole position, they were very hopeful of this outcome, which last happened in Australia in 2018. The atmosphere here is really lovely. It's a beautiful night. It's family friendly. I mean, it's very noisy with the revving of cars and people celebrating, but people here seem to love that. A lot of people getting photos with cars from the Melbourne Ferrari Club, and more members and cars are expected here tonight. So the Grand Prix has made a triumphant return to Melbourne. It is all over, but it's fair to say that celebrations here are just getting started.
I'm worried about that car. Emma O'Sullivan, thank you.
Rideshare prices have surged on Melbourne's big weekend of events. Some customers have reported prices as much as 4 times the usual rate. Uber says its dynamic pricing model aims to ensure passengers who need a ride can get one during times of peak demand.
Stories of bravery are emerging about a young policewoman killed in a horror head-on crash near Mildura. An investigation into the cause is underway as the family of the other driver shares their pain.
Senior Constable Briar Joyce and Josh Moore were strangers. Their families now share the same painstaking grief.
We're not just crying for our family. We cry for theirs too.
Obviously very sorry that this has happened.
The 23-year-old was driving to a friend's house on Friday night when the tragedy unfolded.
He said, "I'll be there shortly." He never turned up. In the morning, I got a text from his mum saying that he wasn't with us anymore.
Police say Mr Moore lost control, veering into the path of an unmarked police car. He and the 25-year-old officer couldn't be saved.
He would give you his last dollar.
I'd bring a friend over and he'd investigate them and make sure that they're a good friend for me.
Senior Constable Joyce only moved to Mildura last year, but her policing has left a memorable impact. Ms Joyce was off duty when she rescued a young girl struggling in the Murray River.
Brought our daughter back into shore. She was getting out of her depth, and it could have been pretty disastrous if Briar wasn't there.
The force of the impact was so strong it could be heard from a few hundred metres away. A quick-thinking neighbour rushed out to help, assisting all 3 victims involved before paramedics arrived. Leading Senior Constable Thomas Kinane, who was in the passenger's seat, remains in a serious condition at the Royal Melbourne Hospital. The cause of the crash is still under investigation. Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
Boris Johnson has walked the streets of Kyiv to offer more weapons to help Ukraine. He's the latest leader to visit Volodymyr Zelensky as Ukraine warns of increased fighting in the eastern part of the country.
I think that the Ukrainians have shown the courage of a lion, but you, Volodymyr, have given the roar of that lion.
The UK will send more than 100 armoured vehicles and 800 anti-tank missiles to the war zone. And Ukrainians are telling stories of mass kidnappings and assassinations by snipers in the wake of Russia's withdrawal from the country's north. Entire towns are now just rubble, with many civilians forced to live on the streets.
Does life ever return to normal after a war is fought in your town? This is Hostomel, population 17,000. At least that was the population. The major employer was a glass factory. Hundreds here are unaccounted for. Many are dead. The Russians attacked Hostomel from the air in the opening days of the war before a ground battle that lasted weeks. The people who are hiding underground have emerged to discover what's left of their homes and learn their lives have changed again. They're now cooking outside, using an abandoned Russian generator to charge their phones.
How long do you think you'll be living like this?
The local council has told them 4 months, Alexei says. He can't quite believe it either. A long time to live with the reminders of what's happened here all around you. People here tell us they were offered the chance to leave by the Russians, but only to go to Belarus. They think some of those missing were taken there as prisoners. It wasn't just the fear of artillery and shelling that gripped this town, or the fact the Russians were in control, but what people couldn't see. The occupying soldiers told them if they went outside, snipers would shoot. That's what happened to Yuri Prolivko.
Yuri Ilyich, наш мэр.
Yuri, our mayor. Yuri, my friend, the local priest tells me. Now buried in a makeshift grave in the churchyard. Father Peter tells me how he waved a white flag above his head while retrieving Yuri's booby-trapped body. The mayor had been out delivering aid to residents during the Russian occupation. He believes the soldiers couldn't bring themselves to kill a priest. He spray-painted messages in the streets, pleading for mercy, but the church itself didn't escape shelling or bullets. Putin is even worse than Hitler, he says, admitting people he's never seen come to church have suddenly decided to visit. So many prayers waiting to be answered. In Hostomel, Ukraine, Hugh Whitfeld, 7 News.
Protesters have marched through the city to Parliament, rallying against Russian President Vladimir Putin's regime in Ukraine.
And those of Australian-Ukrainian heritage, like myself, want to know that our families in Europe can live in peace like we do here in Australia.
Flowers have been laid in support of the war-torn country. An incredible rescue has been captured on police body cam. This is the frantic moment officers pulled 2 people from a burning caravan south of Perth. The members smashed the front windscreen, directing the trapped holidaymakers to unclip their seatbelts before dragging them to safety.
I'm so glad to see you alive.
The man received burns to his face. The woman wasn't injured.
Space travel history has been made, with paying customers taking an Easter holiday that's out of this world. But the jaunt doesn't come cheaply. They've each forked out more than $70 million for the 10-day trip.
Ignition. Stop. Go Falcon, go Dragon. Godspeed, Axiom 1.
Liftoff for a first-time mission. SpaceX shuttling 3 private paying customers to the International Space Station for the first time.
6 meters in closing.
This morning, their capsule docking 400 kilometres above the Atlantic Ocean.
And there we are.
A real estate mogul from Ohio, a Canadian investor and a former Israeli fighter pilot escorted by a former NASA astronaut. But first, Houston had a problem.
Expect a hold at waypoint 2 for ISS troubleshooting.
The team forced to wait 20 metres from the ISS for about an hour. Once on board...
I'm thrilled and honoured to be up here, and the responsibility is for this first civilian crew to get it right.
Each paid $73 million for the 10-day trip. They'll carry out research and demonstrations to help a private company build its own commercial space station. The aim? To one day make this ticket to the stars available to more than the millionaires. In the United States, Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
Andrew McCormack is here with Sport Now. Andrew, a big blow for the Blues.
Certainly, Beck. A hamstring injury has stopped Patrick Cripps in his tracks. The Blues skipper was subbed out in the second term against the Suns, and he wasn't the only one on the casualty list. We'll have more shortly. Plus, relief for the Bombers. They're finally on the board as Sam Draper delivers the goods. Also, the Saints soar over the Hawks, but Paddy Ryder could be in strife for a brutal bump. Aussie Cam Smith surges into contention at the Masters after a stunning third round. And guys, we'll also have the latest on a star magpie who's suffering a brutal 3-month injury layoff.
That is not good
We'll
news.
have more on that shortly.
All right, thank you very much, Macca. A shooter is on the run in Melbourne's north after 2 men were gunned down in a frenzied attack. Exclusive details next on 7 News.
Also, IVF in record demand as Victorians shift their life goals.
The footy streaker taught a painful lesson.
And later, 2 special reports. Melbourne's bin police launch a new crackdown. And the man inspiring Nathan Buckley. 2 men have been seriously injured in a drive-by shooting in Melbourne's north. Dozens of gunshots could be heard in Greenvale before one of the victims ran to neighbours for help. Christy Cooper has this exclusive report.
A 24-year-old man from Braybrook runs for help after being gunned down.
I heard my mom screaming and I cannot see what's happening. Then all I heard, some guy banging on my door.
Stunned neighbours slowed the bleeding by wrapping bandages around several gunshot wounds. Moments earlier, a peaceful night in Greenvale was shattered by the piercing sound of up to 30 gunshots.
We didn't think it was gunshots, but we definitely thought it was fireworks. It was very fast and then everything just went quiet.
It happened near the corner of Coomber Crescent and Compass Drive in a new residential estate. Police believe a 27-year-old Craigieburn man who arrived in hospital a short time later was injured in the same shooting. The owners of this brand new home were due to move in next month, but it was sprayed with bullets and now they face a hefty damage bill. On the outside, bullet holes in bricks and door frames. Inside, some passed through up to 4 walls.
Of course, my kids, my wife, she will be scared, and don't feel comfortable to stay here.
The shooters remain on the run. Christy Cooper, 7 News.
The stolen car has smashed through the front of a coffee shop and burst into flames in Huntingdale. The driver of the black sedan ran from the scene before police arrived. An investigation is now underway. IVF services have been stunned by a surge in demand during the pandemic. Victorian patients are now starting the process earlier than planned, rather than putting off having a family.
John and Laura Summers are preparing to start their second IVF journey. John survived testicular cancer. The couple beat the odds and welcomed baby Adeline last year, sharing their experience online.
But we were super lucky and now we have our little baby after 15 egg retrievals and
my 2 surgeries.
John had a couple of surgeries as well, so it was a long road for us.
The latest Medicare figures show rather than slowing over the pandemic, demand for services surged. Over 2 years to the end of 2021, IVF procedures rose 27% nationally. The biggest jump was in Victoria, up 36%. Next were Queensland and New South Wales.
We're so busy. We have increased our business by about 1,000 cycles a year.
Patients have told doctors living through COVID-19 made them reassess priorities.
I think people realise what's important in life. Actually, having a family is more important than anything else.
Pandemic shutdowns made it extremely difficult for many Australians trying to start a family. But most clinics say they've now caught up on missed appointments and they're eager to take on new patients.
I think the biggest thing is just start. If you need to, just get in the game.
Emma O'Sullivan, 7 News.
A heavy-handed security guard is under fire for levelling a pitch invader during a rugby league game on the Gold Coast. The streaker's joy came to a bone-crunching end. Officials for the home team Titans say they're investigating. Our beautiful city was on show today and so was the sunshine. But Sonia Marinelli, there's a change brewing.
There sure is, Mike, and it's not that far away. It'll reach Melbourne overnight. Then we're starting the working week under very different conditions. So that's what made this weekend so special, and we ended it on a high. 27 is what we got to in the end. And didn't it feel really good out there in the sunshine? Tomorrow's change, pulling back in the low cloud and some drizzly showers along with a burst of cold air. Mike, Beck, details after sport.
See you then. Thanks, Son. Up next, morning tragedy on the streets of Abbotsford has sparked a powerful message on road safety.
Also, the promise to keep Victorian voters COVID safe on election day.
Cricket great Imran Khan booted as Prime Minister of Pakistan.
And a brave little entrepreneur in the fight of her life.
Police are investigating after a man was hit and killed while crossing the road in Abbotsford. It sparked a new campaign to keep Melburnians safe as big crowds return to major events.
A Sunday morning tragedy in Abbotsford after a pedestrian was hit and killed on Johnson Street. The driver stopped to assist police. 1 in 7 lives lost on Victorian roads this year has been a pedestrian.
Nearly double we've had of last year, and we're quite concerned about that.
There should be 0 lives lost on our roads. Every injury, every death is preventable.
A new digital campaign is aiming to bring the road toll down. The TAC and the state government are behind the safety push, with help from quadriplegic Anthony Bartle. He suffered a severe spinal injury after he was hit by a car while rushing home when he was just 6 years old.
I just ran out onto the road. That one little decision to try and save a minute or two changed my life forever.
In a split second, Anthony's world was turned upside down.
Me, if I'd thought before crossing the road for that one split second, then I would have prevented 30 years of disability.
The CNB Seen campaign is urging both pedestrians and drivers to keep their eyes up. The launch coincides with the return of big crowds around events like the Grand Prix and the International Comedy Festival.
People are coming back into the cities. That is fabulous, but quite obviously with that comes greater risk.
Daylight is no longer as clear as it once was.
Rochelle Brown, 7 News.
Victorian voters worried about a COVID crowd crush on election day can rest easy. Polling centres are promising a safer than ever experience as the countdown to May 21 begins.
Next month's election is set to be Australia's biggest ever, and these rooms are about to be a hive of activity.
This one's a little bit special. We've got 17 million people on the roll. It's the biggest roll we've had, 4.3 million of those in Victoria, and probably about 600,000 new people on the roll.
7,000 polling centres need to be set up in every corner of the country. 25,000 copies of the electoral roll will soon roll off the printers, as well as 60 million ballot papers, which will end up in 70,000 ballot boxes.
Across the country, we're looking for 110,000 temporary election workers, and in Victoria, that's 33,000.
Those workers will be telling everyone to keep their distance. They'll offer up 63,000 litres of hand sanitizer and scrub every bench with 34,000 bottles of surface cleaner. And as for those trusty grey leads that mark our democratic right,
normally we use around 100,000 pencils in a election. This election, 4.5 million.
In Victoria, we like to vote early. In 2016, 23% of us made our decision before election day. In 2019, it rose to 37%.
There's around 2 weeks to early vote, so we do ask people to get out and plan for that.
Chanel Vella, 7 News.
The heat is on Emmanuel Macron tonight, with the war in Ukraine dominating the first stage of France's presidential election. The incumbent's diplomatic efforts towards Ukraine initially led to a surge in the polls, but voters have realised the conflict is affecting their daily lives with the rising costs of fuel and food. Voters will decide which 2 candidates will face off. Imran Khan has been sensationally ousted as Prime Minister of Pakistan after losing a no-confidence motion. One of the country's greatest cricketers, Khan was booted out after MPs voted in a late-night session. The 69-year-old took power 4 years ago but recently lost his parliamentary majority when allies quit his coalition.
A brave little girl with a business-savvy mind is melting hearts at the Royal Children's Hospital. 8-year-old Novalee has a message for Melbourne ahead of this year's Good Friday appeal.
How are you? Good. I'm here to get my nails done.
Inside the Royal Children's Hospital's Kookaburra ward, Novalee Morris's nail salon is open for business. It's 50 cents to have one hand painted, $1 for 2.
There's my $1. Thank you.
The entrepreneurial 8-year-old is saving up for Lego to help pass the time as she fights acute lymphoblastic leukemia for the second time.
Makes me feel really tired, really grumpy.
6 months ago, Novalee was dancing for joy outside the hospital. After 2.5 years of gruelling chemotherapy, she was celebrating the end of her treatment. The brave little patient had no idea at that very moment specialists had discovered her leukaemia was back. Novalee had relapsed.
You're so devastated at the initial diagnosis.
Novalee is now facing another 2.5 years of even more intense treatment.
I haven't seen most of my family for a while now.
COVID has made the ordeal all the harder. Then the family was dealt another blow.
Out of nowhere, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, triple negative breast cancer, which is a very aggressive type.
While mother and daughter fight on, they want the public to give generously to the Good Friday appeal, with a chunk of the funds raised this week to go to children's cancer research.
Many years ago, a relapse mightn't have been able to be treated, whereas now we've got really good treatment. I'm very confident Novalee will be ringing that bell again.
I think you did a good job?
Yes.
I think you did a beautiful job.
Brave Novalee has become a firm favourite with staff, the little nail artist looking forward to going back to school. And it was very, very special to meet her, and I've still got my nails on.
Oh, what a nail salon that must be.
It was beautiful. Wishing her the very best of luck. Well, Melbourne's bin police is out in force in a new crackdown on road recyclists. That's coming up next on 7 News.
Plus, Princess Anne meets some local heroes on her whirlwind trip down under.
And the gutsy footy fan Nathan Buckley says has become his inspiration. Residents in Melbourne's inner southeast are being warned to clean up their act. It's part of a crackdown on a growing recycling problem that could force Donington Council to hire the bin police.
It's a nice part of town with a rubbish problem. Recycling bins contaminated with trash costing the Stonington City Council more than $500,000 a year to sort through.
Things like soft plastics and non-decomposable milk cartons.
The council is now proposing a crackdown on those not recycling correctly. Bin police would pick houses at random and take photos of their rubbish, with those doing the wrong thing warned to clean up their act. Fines and rate increases could be considered in the future.
It's just treating ratepayers like little kids to be checked up on and sent to the naughty corner and have their bins labelled that you're an offender. It's just nonsense.
I'm all for encouraging people to recycle, but what I don't support is having council officers go through people's bins looking at their rubbish.
Similar trials elsewhere have proven successful.
By issuing vouchers to some of our local businesses also to encourage people to do the right thing. We saw contamination in our recycling bins decrease by 25%.
Councils will also be cracking down on hard rubbish, fining households up to $10,000 for dumping their unwanted items on the street outside allocated collection times.
Hard rubbish in the past 2 years has exploded in most areas of Melbourne.
Stonington City councillors will consider the proposed trial tomorrow night. Kathleen O'Connor, 7 News.
Queen Elizabeth's daughter, Princess Anne, has spent her second day down under. She visited the Royal Easter Show and a maritime training ship, while also meeting firefighters and victims of the 2019 bushfires.
Thank you for allowing me to join you today, but to also remember those that did have to sacrifice their lives.
Princess Anne's royal tour will finish tomorrow.
A new book is revealing the strong bond between an AFL legend and the Magpie fan he describes as an inspiration. For 24 years, Nathan Buckley has marvelled at the courage of cerebral palsy sufferer Hayden Walsh, whose remarkable life story is now in print.
The same qualities that made Nathan Buckley a superstar. Oh, yes. 32-year-old Hayden Walsh needs just to get through daily life.
Tenacious, positive, grateful, and just has a crack at life. It's a great example.
On Hayden's bedroom wall, a photo of their first meeting, Royal Children's Hospital, 1998.
It's a long time ago, mate.
No, I'm getting old, a few grey hairs.
Don't worry, so am I.
Inspiring each other ever since, Bucks has written the foreword to Hayden's new biography.
I was very grateful for Nathan to think very highly of me since we've been crossing paths since I was a little boy.
Born with cerebral palsy, Hayden needed years of surgery and therapy to walk and talk. A footy fanatic, he played a Little League game at 11. He's devoted to training with, helping manage and firing up the Kyneton Tigers.
We see Hayden's struggles, physical struggles, but it doesn't define him. He chooses not to be defined by it.
Now a dad, Hayden sees the book written by journalist Karen O'Sullivan as his duty to inspire.
If I can change one person, little kid with cerebral palsy, then I've done my job.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
You are just awesome, Hayden.
Terrific story, and Karen used to work here,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
congratulations to her. Well, Andrew McCormack returns now as sport. Andrew, the Brownlow frontrunner, he's been grounded.
Certainly has, Beck. An injury blow for star blue Patrick Cripps as things get heated in a stunning upset is brewing on the Gold Coast. We'll have the details after the break. Plus, a young Hawk takes flight while another cops the full force from the surging Saints at the MCG. Also, a fired-up Bomber shows off his full artillery as Essendon finally gets on the board, and Aussie Cameron Smith makes his move at Augusta. Welcome back. A double blow for the Blues with skipper Patrick Cripps to be sidelined for multiple weeks now with a hamstring injury. Carlton's unbeaten season coming to a surprising abrupt end on the Gold Coast, while the Suns handed Hawthorn a whopping 69-point hammering at the MCG. A subtle reach for the left hamstring at quarter time. Patrick Cripps headed straight into the rooms as Carlton went back out for the second term.
Cripps is out. He's certainly out of the game with a left hamstring.
The Blues captain and the current Brownlow medal favourite struck down by yet another injury setback. Even if it's only on the minor end, Cripps is facing at least 21 days on the sidelines. He looks set to miss games against Port Adelaide, Fremantle and North Melbourne. A broken nose for Harry Mackay. Carlton's undefeated start to the season under threat as a former teammate got some revenge.
Oh, that was a little message to the Blues mismanagement.
37 points the margin at the final change, and despite getting the first goal of the final term, the Blues are set to record their first loss of the season. Paddy Ryder has a nervous wait at the match review. Young Hawk Will Day subbed out with concussion after this bump in the second term. The hit was a rare blemish for both Ryder and the Saints in a 69-point thumping over the Hawks.
Gresham curling, magnificent all round.
Jade Gresham with 4 goals, 4 majors 2 to Max King, Tim Membry and Bradley Hill.
Puts the perfect exclamation points on his performance.
While Jeff Kennett had seen enough, Mitch Lewis woke the Hawks president from his slumber.
Mitch Lewis! Wow!
Essendon has relieved the pressure valve, registering its first win of the 2022 season. They did it the hard way against the Crows, holding on for a narrow 4-point win.
The new Colt Heroes standing tall at the death.
Draper, the Rackman! You can't catch him!
Victory only secured in the dying seconds.
Marvel Stadium erupts!
Bit of external pressure on us to get that win. Very emotional game to get that first win, and yeah, just raw emotion, that celebration in the end.
The Bombers brought the heat against the Crows. 2-metre Peter threatened to tear the game apart with 3 goals. Essendon just as damaging when they hit top gear from the middle.
To the square.
An 8-point lead at the stroke of half-time.
And he's got it perfectly working back.
Standing coach Blake Caracella kept calm until his temperament was tested when the Crows hit the front.
And stroke it through for his third.
Essendon taking back the lead at the final change.
Guelphy, fully loaded. Bombers back in front.
Tensions rose. Rochelle gave Smith some tummy treatment, who replied the best way possible.
Who gets the instructions and follows them to a T.
Archie Perkins showed off his deadly boot, keeping Adelaide at bay as the Bombers finally got on the board in 2022. Tim Hipsley, 7 News.
Collingwood's season has taken a hit on the injury front. Chief football reporter Tom Brown has the details. And Tom, Jamie Elliott, he spent the day in the hospital today.
Andrew, the Pies require goal-scoring options, and in a significant blow, confirmation tonight that Elliott will require surgery on his AC joint in his shoulder. Elliott expected at this stage to miss at least 3 months. Jones, I understand, will be cleared by the MRO for that tackle. Moving to Port Adelaide, a significant injury blow for Ollie Wines. I understand he will miss at least 2 to 3 weeks with that heart scare because of the medication He's now required to take. Port have told me he's relatively fine from a heart point of view. He'll have further tests this week. His cardiologist, according to Port, says there's no link to the vaccine or any COVID issues that have caused or triggered that heart problem. And just finally, Andrew, a reminder of Ben McAvoy's serious neck injury. He fractured it a couple of weeks ago in an accident at training. As you can see there, he remains in a neck brace. McAvoy, in terms of Jeff Kennedy, spoke pre-game today, emphasising that Kennett is not racist, nor is the club. He says that all the current Indigenous players feel safe at the Hawks. Andrew?
Thanks, Tom. Tom Brown there. It was a clean sweep for Charles Leclerc at the Australian Grand Prix. The Ferrari driver recorded the fastest lap and led from start to finish to extend his championship lead. Dan Ricciardo got his first points of the year, coming in 6th.
If you asked me this after Bahrain, I probably would have laughed sarcastically. So, I'm very happy to be back in this position.
Max Verstappen's Red Bull faltered on lap 40, while three-time winner Sebastian Vettel found the new Albert Park track too tough to handle. Aussie Cameron Smith has kept his Masters dream alive, going on a birdie blitz at Augusta. Smith fired a 4-under third round to sit just 3 shots off leader Scotty Scheffler. Mark Leishman is in a tie for 18th, while Tiger Woods had a round of 6 over 78.
An unseasonably shivering 10 degrees with bitter, howling wind chill. Ask Billy Horschel or Adam Scott and Tiger Woods how tough it was today. Scott shot 80, his worst round there in 18 years. In clear pain, Tiger gamely battled on for a 78, his worst ever round at Augusta.
I thought it was tough. I mean, some of the other guys may not say that.
That tells the brilliance of Smith to beat par by 4.
Oh, again, it's going to be good. Look at this.
Like all his heroes, Smith's now the one we'll wake and watch, trying to emulate that magical morning 9 years ago when Scott won Australia's only green jacket.
Yeah, I've been watching this tournament since I can remember, so hopefully everyone gets up early and I can make some birdies.
Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
Good luck to Cam Smith tonight at Augusta, guys. That's all for sport.
Thanks, Macca. The sun has set on a perfect weekend of weather. And Son, what's next?
Well, summer vibes today, Mike, but wintry ones tomorrow. Stay with me. I'll walk you through the change next.
He's one of the game's greats. Brownlow medal. Over the top goes Black. 4 premierships, 258 games, Hall of Fame. Now he's facing a moment of truth. 7 News is there as he takes a test that could change his life. Monday at 6.
Hello again. We're tracking a cold, showery change which isn't that far away. So let's savour what was a magnificent end to the weekend right around Melbourne. From a low of 16.7, the city nudged 27 degrees this afternoon. Showers have reached along and are passing over Melbourne as I speak, but we haven't really seen anything significant reach the ground as yet. And it's still balmy around the suburbs, most of us hovering in the low to mid-20s, and we should stay mild until around midnight. After that, the colder air arrives. The change has moved through the southwest. It's tracking across southern Victoria, and we're seeing showers move in with it. Warm air, though, still in front. So today stayed lovely and warm with a strengthening wind just pulling heat down from the north. So a trough and cold front is drawing all of that warmth in ahead of it. As it moves over us tonight, it's opening the door for a chilly southerly to flow through. So this was a temperature this afternoon, but we are waking to a chilly breeze by Monday, and the temperature staying down on Tuesday as well. It's not all bad news, no. The temperature perks up a bit on Thursday. Tonight's change brings showers and the risk of thunderstorms mostly on and south of the Divide during Monday, clearing out to the east by Tuesday. To the forecast now. Welcome change in Sydney tomorrow. The sun will be shining there all day, sunny and warm in Brisbane, while that system that's impacting Victoria bringing cloud to Hobart. Back home, there'll be low cloud covering southern Victoria with scattered showers on and south of the ranges. There's a chance of an afternoon shower or storm for those up in the northeast, but it all clears out to the east by the evening. Closer in and cloud increasing tonight. Drizzly showers arriving early tomorrow morning, but it should dry up through the afternoon. We'll be under this fairly cool southerly wind. So even though most spots start in the mid-teens, it'll be a short climb from there. It's just 17 in Melton and Sunbury, Werribee 18 18 also in Scoresby and in Moorabbin, and we're up to 19 across the bay in Geelong. Just 18 degrees in the city tomorrow, drop of almost 10 from today. The wind will be chilly but reasonably light, and drizzly showers should ease through the afternoon. By Tuesday, mostly dry in the city, but the cloud stays, keeping us to 18. Sunshine returning on Wednesday, 21, warming to 25 by Thursday. Showers may develop on Good Friday, 23, mostly dry Saturday, 22, then a warm sunny 25 on Easter Sunday. So, Beck, Mike, amazing weather this weekend, and it's looking really good for Easter Sunday too, but it is still early days.
It was a ripping weekend. Thanks,
Tom.
Good. And that's 7 News for this Sunday. We'll have updates throughout the night.
For now, from the 7 News team, good night.